Well, hi everybody. My name is Koichi, and I am going to talk about DJing and music and why I think it's important for a DJ or how a DJ can impact the community in a positive way. Because I think it's a lot more than just playing music for dancers and for competitions. So that's what I'm going to talk about today.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
I also don't want to feel like I'm just talking the whole hour. So I'm going to try to make it interactive. I'll ask some questions and hopefully you guys will jump in. I know there are some hecklers in the crowd, so I'm pretty sure I'll get some verbal responses. I'm looking forward to those for sure. Okay, so let me start it up right now. Okay, so things that I'll probably cover. Okay, why do I do the things that I do? So related to DJing specifically. And then music to blank, because if I fill that blank up, it would explain why I do the things that I do. So music to blank, you'll find out later what that is. And then training to blank, how to increase your blank, and why can't I just eat it? And then I'll end it with a Q&A session. But throughout this session, I have the whole hour. So if you have any questions, please just fire it out. If you don't mind, verbal is probably better so I could see it or so I could hear it. But I'll try to look at the chat box once in a while. Okay, so first thing first, warning. These are, whatever I'm gonna say is purely my opinion, right? So they're just my opinions. So please don't take it as fact. I mean, it may be, but they're just my opinions, and there are many, many right ways and different ways to do the things that I do. Okay, so first let me start with the story time. So I think some of you know me by now, but just in case you don't know me, I want to explain a little, like 5 minutes just talking about like how I ended up becoming a West Coast Swing DJ. So I actually started West Coast Swing dancing a while ago. So it was 2003, I believe, is when I started. And then when I started, I started to do it because I was doing salsa for a while, for about a year. And I wanted to do this other dance that the studio that I frequented was doing back in at Redmond, Washington. So then I started doing it. It's like, oh, it's kind of fun. So I started to help out with the class. And then I was in my own little happy world thinking, oh, I'm pretty good. And then 2008, I believe, is when my friend told me about this thing called Easter Swing, Seattle Easter Swing. And then I was like, oh, what is this thing? What is this convention thing? And then someone explained to me, oh, it's this thing where people go to, there are a lot of people, pros, and you do contests, and you collect points and travel all around. And I was like, why do I want to collect points? What's the point of it? Oh, no pun intended, but what's the point of it, right? Anyhow, I went to it and I was coerced into competing. I tried it, I got my ass kicked, and then that lit something under my buns and I started to want to get better because I realized how not good I was, right? After watching all these dancers compete and do well. Like I was really mesmerized with all the dancing going on across all levels. So first convention experience 2008. And then I started to, so the first time I DJ'd was actually July of 2012. And the reason why I did it is because I was asked if I wanted to be a guest DJ for a 4th of July party that was happening locally. By then the studio owner knew who I was because I've been around for a while as a dancer and I would make random music requests to the DJs. So I guess they felt maybe it was time to try me out and see what happens because it was a venue that also rotated DJs. So like there was a one normal regular DJ that DJ'd every other week, but then every other week then they would have guest DJs. So I think the thought process was to create more DJs locally, and then they wanted to try me out, I think, which I will talk about later. So yeah, so I DJ'd for the first time, and I was like, okay, well that was pretty fun. I don't know if I'll do it again, but maybe. And then I wasn't really thinking I would become a West Coast DJ. But then I was asked to do a couple more times, then I realized that it was really fun. And I was actually back for what the community needed. It seemed like I was able to do pretty well. So then that was a hook, right? When I started to realize I could actually have positive impact, I wanted to do more. Then about 6 months after that, I did my first convention. By then I've been dancing for a while, so I knew I had enough event director friends that I was able to ask for like a guest slot. And then that started my event experience. First at Dance and Play, then Swingtacular. So Cheryl Lyons and Ben McHenry were the first two event directors that was willing to try me out. So I am eternally thankful and grateful for what they've done for me. So yeah, and then the rest is just me DJing more and getting more opportunities. And then like the more I did it, I just really love. I just found myself loving DJing, and I just kept on doing it and doing it. And then like a few years ago, I was thinking that maybe I'll DJ a little less because I felt like I was doing too much. But when I get different kinds of opportunity, I kept on taking them. So whether different opportunity, meaning like different coast or different state or different region. So it's been a really, really fun ride. Cool. So that is, oh, and then of course the pandemic hit and I stopped DJing about a year ago at this point, but so did everyone else. So that's a little bit about me. Any questions so far? Cool. Okay. So going back to the first question, right? So why do I do the things I do? I unfortunately went to that slide already, so you may have already seen it, but is anyone willing to share why they do the things that they do? Like why do they DJ, why do they dance? And if, where is the chat box?
Austin says money.
That's awesome. Okay, oh, I see the chat box now.
Hey, I like to DJ because we just kind of took over our Friday night scene and we needed some people to DJ. So a couple of us just kind of got together and we did like little mini sets, and then we just kind of formed like a little DJ group. And so then every Friday would be a different DJ out of our group, and then we'll like take classes consistently and stuff. And you know, then we can really pay more attention when we go to events around everywhere and bring back more music for our community. So it's just kind of like a cool group thing that we kind of started.
Nice. Yeah, that all sounds great. Austin, yes, if you're doing this for the money, you might be in the wrong business. But I do see that you did say just kidding. But anyhow, yeah, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. So talking about, so let's talk about why do I DJ, right? Why the heck am I DJing, or why did I start DJing? Why am I continuing to DJ, in fact? So I realized that one of the things I really like to do is to impact, right? Whether it's impact so I'm a software engineer by, my career is in software engineering. So one of the things I like to do is build software, and I really love it because it impacts a lot of people, right? Positively, hopefully positively. And DJing is really similar, where when I first started it, I really liked impacting. Oh, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have slides. Okay, so what do I mean by impact, right? So there are different ways I can impact as a DJ. So I can impact the dancers, I could impact DJs, and I could also impact communities, right? So let's dig a little more into each of these things. So how do I impact dancers? Well, that's pretty clear, right? I play music, people dance. I play contest music for them, they compete. And hopefully they like the songs. If they don't, and they're my friends, they usually tell me, so it's great. Feedback is great most of the time. So I won't even write anything about impacting dancers. So how do I impact DJs? So one way that I can impact DJs is by setting examples, right? So by now I'm fortunate enough to work at a bunch of events, and then I've had chance to do like upper level competitions, such as like All Stars and Champs and Invitational. And then I feel like what I do will set, it's not necessarily about setting example as in like succeeding in the competition or succeeding as a DJ, but setting example, like small things, right? Like people watch, right? Like whether do I show up at the dot that I'm supposed to show up at, or do I come early, right? Does it seem like I'm playing the same song every single time? Well, ignoring the traditional blues and soul, because that's a whole new thing. But you know, specifically pop, am I playing the same song all the time, like every weekend for the whole month or something, right? So whether I like it or not, I'm setting examples, right? Just by doing the thing that I do, I'm setting examples. So I want to set good examples. How another way that that I can impact DJs by sharing, sharing music, sharing playlists, sharing different strategies or experience or whatever it is, right? I really like talking, and I'm okay with drinking. So like, if you ever want to talk DJing, just let's go to a bar and just talk, right? Probably not food, because I'll be spitting food. The other way I like to impact DJs by training. So another DJ named Liz Ravnin, I think she's somewhere here, but she and I started this thing called DJ Lab about a year and a half ago, I think. And then the main idea is to have slides and train people to help create more DJs at different events or different communities, right? And then even before DJ Lab, like, I didn't do anything formal, but I definitely sat down with a lot of friends from Seattle to just talk about DJing, because I could go on for hours, and I'm game. For me, the way I think is that if I help my friends become better DJs, or what I think is good DJing, what I think would work in that community as a DJ, then if I go dancing, I get to have a better time, right? So it's all selfishly motivated in the end, of course, but it's by training other DJs, I just feel like good things will happen. Okay, so that's how I can impact DJs. Okay, so impacting communities. So let's take a step back and figure out what do you think builds a community? Would anyone like to blurt out things that you think helps build a dance, specifically a dance community?
When you get people together that enjoy the music, the vibe, any of those things. And since the quarantine and COVID's changed so much the whole landscape, it's interesting to hear your background and how you've made your journey, and how everyone's been very accepting of everyone as they are right now, as we're all still trying to pivot and figure out how do we keep the community alive.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. And on the chat, traditional is mentioned as well. So yeah, all those make sense. And there's a lot of different things that builds community. There are three things that really popped up in my head. And of course, it's not the whole picture, right? But what I think is helps build a community is what is a community, right? There's people, there's some location, and at least for dancing, there's music, right? So people could include teachers, dancers, DJs, event organizers and such. Place, just studios, hotels, whatever it is, and music, right? Okay, so what do I mean by music? Wait, what's wrong with just having a playlist, right? There are people that that will, especially for a smaller dance at some studio, maybe they'll have a playlist that's running, whether it's mixed music or what's those things. So me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a playlist, right? Because there's time and place for a playlist playing at a studio, even for a party. But at least my belief is that even if you start with a playlist, the ideal way to satisfy the needs of satisfy the dancers the best is by adjusting to things that happen, right? It'll be, I think if you have a good playlist, the crowd could continue to dance, and for the most part, we'll have a good enough time, right? But if you are actively watching, or if this person is actively watching the crowd and starts making adjustments, because 1 week maybe people imagine so in Texas, like I'm in Austin right now, and then one summer the AC was broken. So if I would have had a playlist that did my normal stuff and that hit 120 BPM, maybe even like 3 or 4 times, maybe that would have been too much, right? You have to adjust to the situation, whether it's environment and whatnot. So adjusting to what's happening is, I think, really, really important, right? So I would say, like, if you want to start with a playlist because the event's small, or you just starting to dive into playing music for people, sure, why not? But I would say that I hope the goal is that eventually you start at least adjusting the playlist, right? If not straight up picking songs while with a DJ app or something, without having a song or playlist in your mind. Because the experienced DJs, for the most part, as far as I could tell, use some app, whether it's DJ app or straight up just iTunes, but they don't have a playlist, right? They add songs to the playlist, or sorry, they add songs and start playing it very actively. So how does the music impact the community or people, right? So one way is by playing music, playing whatever song that you have, right? One of the reasons why music can impact is because it gets people to come out, right? You play songs that you want, or the friend that friend wants you to play. It gets for example, in Seattle, one of the guys that always was really good at actively getting people to come out is Alan Albrecht, who actually runs Seattle Easter Swing at this point. So if he says he's coming out, like he'll bring like 10 to 20 others, right? There's always people like that. So if he says, hey, like, what do you think of this song? If I think it's good to play for the crowd, I will definitely play it. But I won't tell him straight up if I'm going to play it or not, because I wanted to keep it a teaser, right? Okay, so another way playing music impacts people is by, even if you don't travel too much, let's say you go to another city for work or for whatever, right? And you find something new. You can bring new music from other communities, or actually you can even bring new music from other non-dance venues. So for example, when malls used to be a thing, or at least going to malls was a bigger thing, I would be shopping, and then at random stores I would hear music and I would Shazam, and then suddenly it'll be a song that I played next local event, and perhaps at a bigger event as well. A lot of songs that we dance to are pop music with some traditional blues and rock and whatnot, but bulk of it's pop, right? And then what's kind of funny is that like a lot of the songs the pop music we dance to, it's usually not in the top 40. It comes from a lot of odd places, right, if you will. So you might find music at the most unexpected places, including other cities. And it will play a role in being able to impact community through music. And also another way you can impact via music is by playing music to your audience, like for your audience, right? Even in Seattle, and I'm sure in almost all cities, if not every city, there are different groups of people that like more traditional. And when I say traditional, it might be like bluesy, soul, perhaps rock. And then there's actually, let me take a step back. When I was growing as a DJ, one of the things I heard frequently is that like 60% should be pop music, if you will, like the modern thing that's happening, and then 40% should be traditional. That's like kind of the split that I heard that is generically accepted, is what I heard. But then not all venues do that, right? So one of the venues that's really popular in Seattle actually specifically said 80% pop, 20% traditional. And then that's fine, or different venues, different things, but you want to make sure that wherever you're playing, you want to be a good enough DJ that you could DJ at different venues and then keep the dancers dancing, right? And then I think it's fine to bring in your flavor of your DJing to all venues, but your goal is to keep people dancing. It's not about it's not just about sharing your music, right? It's really about the audience. So figuring out, what does this venue like? What does this other venue like? Or what does this event like? Like I remember the first time I DJ'd at WCS, it's an event in DC. It was 2014 or 15, somewhere around that time. It was the first time I was DJing in the East Coast, and I was very nervous because I had no idea what they wanted to dance to, right? But I was specifically hired to do late nights, so I had my normal stuff that I had ready, and then made adjustments as necessary. But I was freaked out a little because I didn't know what to do in the beginning. Oh, even before that, the first time I DJ'd at, I think it was either Chico or Tap. I forgot what the name was when I first DJ'd for Chuck Brown and Meech. But the first time I did late night, like I was very nervous as well, because I was like, I don't know what the Californians want to dance to. So, but yeah, like as long as you're paying attention and you have a variety of music, I feel like it'll work out. Okay, so speaking of, oh man, I think I went ahead of myself. Why does it matter to play to your audience? Okay, different needs, wants, even locally, which I talked about. Oh, variety is necessary. So I think when actually, I'll get this into deeper a little bit later. Okay. Oh, and then the third part, yeah, I didn't mention. If you pay attention to your audience, and if you're known as, let's say you're known to be, you tend to lean towards playing certain genres, right? But you also are able to play for a variety of different crowds. Then you are selling more higher locally and nationally, and all that like plays like it helps your DJ career, right? So yes, that is why it matters to play to your audience. Okay, and like I said earlier, it's really not about you, right? Like if you chose to become a West Coast scene DJ or any DJ, actually, it's not about you. Like it's really about your dancers, right? Like more than once, I've definitely seen DJs play the songs that they want to, and then I think it works fine up to some point, but then eventually you might start losing, and they may not even notice because they're so focused on themselves, right? Themselves on bopping their head while holding onto the headphones, or maybe drinking too much. Who knows what it is? But it really is about the dancers. So one thing about, so earlier I said sharing music. So what do I mean by that? Just for clarity, by sharing, I don't mean sharing your actual music files, right? Like I meant like sharing a playlist, or you send a link to Spotify or the title or whatever it is, right? But why share music? How does that impact the community or anyone? Well, this is a me thing, but what I noticed is that when I share music, it keeps me on my toes, because by sharing it, it might be played somewhere else, right? So the new song that I found may no longer be new by the time I play it locally or at an event. So by sharing, it naturally motivates me to keep on looking for more songs. So that's one of the reasons why I share. Yeah, and people could Shazam anyway, right? Like before I started DJing, I used to hear things like people, the song was their special sauce, right? Like different DJs had different songs they discovered, and there wasn't a Shazam or Sanhao back then, so they get to play their song. Once Shazam and Sanhao came out, then people started putting in like a way to avoid Shazam and Sanhao detection. Apparently, you could do that by changing the speed a little bit, by adding artificial sound that goes with music, extra drum or whatever. So people did things so you can understand, right? But now there's really no getting away. And plus people ask for a playlist, right? Liz Ravden played set earlier today, and we asked if she would share it. So she did after she heard her set. So now I have all the songs that she played, and I tend to play that everywhere, right? So it's that easy to share music. By like, once again, sharing music motivates me to keep on looking for new songs. And also one thing I forgot to write is that I started sharing songs like early on, and my main reason was because if I share songs, that song may get played by other DJs at other venues that want to go down. Once again, maybe it was selfishly motivated, but I didn't, by the time I started DJing, music itself, the song itself, they weren't the special sauce. At least I started to believe that, right? I started to believe that what the DJ does is the special sauce. So I didn't care about people knowing the songs that I played. Cool. So how else can I impact? How else do I like impact people? Is by training others. Training others. Well, that doesn't make sense grammatically, but whatever. I like training other people. Okay, so why train others? Well, I realized I actually worked on these slides today, so I may not be the smoothest at presenting, but this is probably my proudest slides. It's great. Okay, well, allegedly it's great. So more local DJs, right? That leads to more music variety. And what does that lead to? More dancers, right? And more dancers means more venues, which means more DJs, more music, more dancers. And okay, no, I'll stop. But what's great is that once you have this healthy cycle of the city growing because of a good thing, healthy cycle that's going on, it may lead to a local convention, right? Like you can't, it's really hard to have a local convention happen without the support of the local dancers. So I feel like usually conventions happen where there are already a pretty good solid amount of dancers and perhaps DJs. Right? There's more flexibility with DJs because they could fly them. DJs are quite often flown in nowadays, but this looks like a really healthy cycle of how you could help build a community as well. Any questions so far for the random things I've been talking about? Either via voice or chat box, because I have the chat box now.
What kind of equipment do you try to start out with now that we're all kind of not going outside as much? You know, we've changed how we do things. And so there are times where I kind of wonder, like, you know, to be more of an active participant in these virtual events, how to make it feel more, I guess it's bridging the gap from virtual to actually being in person. And for me, and possibly others that I've been talking about with is how do we kind of maybe not become DJs per se, but have setups that make it more fun for us to kind of be more interactive. You know, whether
So,
gimbals or, you know, speaker systems or mounting, you know, your computer, you know, just maybe things like that.
so you're talking about the, like, once events start again, or are you talking about like right now where
Right
we're
now,
all virtual?
to kind of make it feel like more inviting. Like, do you kind of still pretend you're actually at a convention versus you're at home, at work, or wherever you might be, to kind of
Okay.
keep yourself in the groove, so to speak?
Yeah, so one of the things so like I mentioned earlier, I'm a software engineer, and then I was very lucky enough that all that really happened was that it switched from going to office to work from home. Right? I'm one of the very fortunate people. But one of the things I realized is that, like, when I first started, like, I never had a home office setup because I really like to go to the office to work. I like being around people. But when the work from home started, so I was just working in my living room. And then I realized that I didn't really have a separation of work and after work, post work, if you will, right? So luckily I had an extra room. So it took a while because of the pandemic. It took a while for everything to arrive, like desks and chairs and whatnot. But I set up a separate. This was going to be the guest bedroom initially, but I switched it to an office space. And then what I realized is that, like, having a space that makes you happy, that makes you comfortable, that makes you productive is really, really important, right? So similarly, with respect to DJing, it's really easy because it's virtual to not think about it and then just join the Zoom call. Just once again, there's nothing wrong with what I'm going to say right now, but or doing what I'm going to say, right? But it's really easy to be lazy, or at least for me, if I do this, I would consider myself being lazy, right? Just open Spotify, have a playlist, share that, and then start playing. Even if I move things around, like DJing through Spotify, for me, I consider it's a lazy thing for me to do, right? So whenever I'm DJing, I always set up my usual thing, which is virtual DJ, and use a sound card. And it's set up a little differently because it's online, but I make it look like locally. I set up such that it looks like I'm DJing, right? And then the closer to the real thing, at least I feel better about it, right? So that's the kind of thing that I do. And in terms of including others, I think you have a great point. Like, it's not just about West Coast swing dancing or music anymore. Well, it's not about West Coast swing dancing anymore because most of us aren't dancing when we join these Zoom calls. Some of us are lucky enough to have a person that you could dance to, whether they're in your pod or you're living with them. But a lot of us is just listening to music and to enjoy, and then perhaps just being around each other virtually is good enough, right? So I think some of the events I definitely sent out my invites to other people, non-dancers, right, just so they could kind of see what it's like and see some dancers. So I think inclusive. I can't say the word, and yeah, be inclusive is, I think, a very, very good way to feel as normal as one can, I think. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for the most part. I think the second part that you can either put in the chat or put later, maybe you're answering later, is like any specifics on setup and stuff that you'd make suggestions.
Yeah. Let me good point. So let me try. I think I'll bring that back at the Q&A. I think I'll answer at the Q&A if that's all right with you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have a little more to go through. But...
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. So how to increase your impact, right? So I talked about how you can impact dancers and DJs and communities, and then you're already doing it, so that's great, right? How do you level up? Well, the easiest thing to do is once you feel like you have enough knowledge, you can start training others, right? Or if not train, you could talk about it with your other fellow DJ friends. Like, why not? Right? You could train yourself. Right now, it's a little hard because you can't really go to events, but Victor was doing some training thing for a few months during the summer. Other random training that I'm sure will show up. If not, like once the dancing starts, you could make friends with DJs and then sit next to them, just watch them. You could do if Liz and I decide to bring back the DJ lab, then you could attend our DJ lab and hopefully you'll get something out of it. But yeah, just train yourself. Oh, and then the great thing about training yourself is that there's a thing called multiplicative factor. So once again, I'm in software engineering, and one of the things I realized, so I'm a programmer, right? But there was a time when I was a manager to some folks, and one of the great things about being a manager is that you are no longer doing work of one person, right? You have the potential to impact 4 or 5 different the people that are reporting to you, and then suddenly the work that you do impacts 4 to 5 different people. So the great thing about training yourself is that you are gaining more knowledge that you could train others with. And then by training others, you're making, potentially creating more DJs for the community, which then they could, it's a pyramid scheme, if you will, without the negativity of it, right? Like you could only DJ at one venue at one time for the most part. I suppose if you're live streaming, yes, simultaneously you could DJ at multiple places, I guess. But for the most part, you DJ at an event or local venue, and that's it. But if you spend time training other DJs, then potentially that DJ could go somewhere and then will not necessarily representing you, but plays in a certain way that resembles your style or your community style, whatever it is, right? Like you have the ability to impact more than just with yourself. So training yourself and others just seems like a good thing. Also, the one of the things I try to do as much as possible is to, there are a lot of people in the community that, a lot of things that we do in West Coast Swing, in my opinion, isn't for money, right? Because it's like, it's hard to make a living as a dance teacher, I think, or at least it's hard to plan for retirement, right? Even if you could live as a teacher right now, well, not right now, it's pandemic, but there's a lot of people that put in time, not because they do it for the money, but they do it because they are like really giving set of people, right? They just love the dance or love music or love the community or whatever it is. There are a lot of people that are like that, right? So start paying attention to those people. And whenever you see people like that, consider maybe helping them out, like either with your time or whatever that they think you think they may need, or just ask them, right? Just be supportive of those people that are supportive of the community. Okay? That's how you could increase your impact, at least in my opinion. Cool. Oh, also one more thing, fill in the gap, right? So at events or local venues or friend's birthday party, once again, if you are there as a potential DJ, you are there not for yourself, but for the dancers, right? So find the gap. If you notice a gap, help fill it up, right? So more than once, myself included, like I've seen DJs step up to do contest music because someone couldn't make it, someone was sick, or there's extra quarterfinals because the competition ended up being 150 follows and 100 leads or whatever. There's so many different things that happen. Well, but then if you're Louis, you just make another, you just easily collect music, right, and just play it because that's Louis. But at least the way I do it, like I like to spend time preparing because that's how I feel comfortable playing music for the dancers. So when and there are a lot of DJs that like to spend time getting their sets ready, right? So just if you feel like someone's struggling for whatever reason, just ask, right? And then help them like that. Maybe you'll end up doing another extra competition, and maybe you don't really like doing competitions, but if you are able to help the person, then the overall experience for the dancer will probably be better, which will reflect good on the events, then the event director, then yourself, and it's all a nice happy family. Why can't I just DJ, right? Like well, one of the things I noticed is that there are at some point I observed that there were a lot of DJs that were starting after a little bit of dancing, or at least it seemed like it, right? And then what I noticed is that when that happens, they're not necessarily in tune with, I've observed that some of those DJs weren't in tune with what the community beyond their circle of friends really needed or wanted, right? So I was lucky that I was dancer for a long time, way before I became a DJ, right? So 2003, so 5 years of just dancing, and then 4 years of convention dancing, and then I played music for the first time, right, as a DJ or as a music player, I guess, because I didn't really consider myself to be a DJ when I played for the first time. So I had all these, I had friends and event directors and local people sharing things about music, what they like, what they don't like, or about certain DJs. So I had all this insight, right? And that helped me become a better DJ, I feel like. So that's where I got really lucky, I think. So going back to this, some of the songs that you have, you may not really know until you try it, right? Whether you actually try it with a friend or by yourself or in your head. I most of the time just dance in my head to see if the timing works out or if things work out, right? Yeah, like somewhat harder than you think, right? You hear it for the first time, you're super excited, and you're like, oh, I'm so gonna play this. And then it actually ends up being way too hard for different reasons, And then I'm not saying don't play difficult songs, because there are songs that are difficult that either whether you're new or whether you're a champ or high-level dancer, you may just want something different or something difficult, right? But when you play difficult songs, I think it should be your choice, right? Not that it happened to be difficult and you didn't do your due diligence, because I've definitely had the moments of not doing my due diligence for sure. So let me play some songs, the example of songs that are harder than you think. Okay, so this song, the City, it's just a remix of it, but The City is played a lot and it's very well known. And it's actually kind of slow, but people seem to like it, right? With new tattoos. It's all about smoke screens and cigarettes. Right, I think you guys know that song, right? And then it turns out that that song is actually somewhere between 75 and 80 BPM, which is pretty slow actually. The Pacific Northwest would be all over it because they love songs that are at that around that BPM. But that song is actually, to me, they seem to be danceable. A lot of people seem to like it. But then here's another song, right? Right, this is Feel It Still, the Medicine remix. Anyhow, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard the song as well. So both of these are actually same BPM, right? And then both of these songs have been played, they work, but if you play these songs, 2 songs in a row that are same BPM, it actually may get, ignoring all the other factors, right? Like the genre is different, the feeling is different, but if you play 2 songs that are like similar in BPM, you might get more people to sit down than you want, right? So that's why, like, you just wanna make sure you have awareness of the songs that you're playing. And here's the song that I've never played. I don't think I'll ever play. But when I first heard it, I thought it might be a really fun song because it's a cover of an old song. Let me skip to this.
One of these days, we gon' hook it up, probably talk on the phone. But see, I don't know if that's good.
Okay, it's called "Are You That Somebody," and I think it was by Aaliyah, and it's a song that I grew up to when I was young. Yeah, Aaliyah. So I thought it was kind of cool when I heard this version, but this is actually the same BPM as the other 2 songs as well. So you think it would work, right? And it may work, but I feel uncomfortable playing this song because what I noticed is that that musically you could dance to the 75-ish BPM, but the way she sings, in my opinion, is double time, right? So when I first heard it, I was excited. It's like, oh, it's a song that I know. It's a cover. It's awesome. It feels nice. It sounds nice. I want to play it. Then I heard it. I listened to it, and I was like, okay, it might be a little weird because of the too much contrast between the natural BPM of the music, which is I think 75, versus the lyrical part, which is like double time, essentially 150-ish, right? So it just seemed like it was too different. So I don't think I'll play that song, right? And then if I would have played it just because I was excited about the song, I think I would have seen a lot of people be confused. I don't know if it would have gone well. Here's a song that I played that is fast, and I thought it would work out really well, but I also didn't. This one I didn't do enough research before playing. And then so let me play the beginning and then the hard part. Right, so just listening to that part is fast, but it's very consistent. It could work, right? And then there's this part. The part the reason why that part I think is, so I actually played it at Swingcouver in 2020, yeah. And then it was like, okay, let me, it was between contests, let me play a fast song to, get them excited or whatever. Then I didn't realize there was this part, and then I saw almost all the floor except the really high level dancers suffer, right? Because they didn't know, wait, did the halftime it, did they do it? And once again, like, it's fine if I intentionally play that song knowing that was there, it's totally fine, right? But I played it without knowing that part was there, so I felt bad. So yes, make sure whether you dance in your head, you listen to music, no, because it's looking for music could take a long time, right? So usually I listen to the first few seconds, the middle, and I kind of add it to my music playlist. But yeah, make sure if you're gonna play, a big chunks of a lot of like try to look for these oddities, right? So am I done? Am I really done? I guess so. Okay, cool. So I'm at the Q&A section. I have 8 minutes left, so I guess timing wise it would work out. So I received some questions, so I would like to go over that. But once again, they are still just my opinions, right? Like Austin, no, you could take them as facts, but they are my opinions. So take it as you will. Take it with a grain of salt. And I'm just another DJ. Cool. So let me start going over some of the questions that I received through Tammy. Okay, so what do I think music, what I think the music will be when we are back, right? First of all, like, I'm actually not sure what it means to be back. Is it locally? Is it event? Is it event with like a pandemic procedure? Is it an event where the COVID-19 is gone, so nothing special needs to happen? It's hard to say what the back is, but my approach is we are back when Backstreet Boys say we are. Okay, well, that may not be for a long time. So thanks for that, Kristen. She did promise to show up to heckle me, so it's great. So like I think about it once in a while, but like ultimately as a DJ, what I do is I will play song, I'll pick a song, play it, and then make adjustments if necessary, right? And then all of us, all the DJs and probably dancers know that the traditional songs never seem to change, right? Whether it's oh my gosh, Sam Cooke or Brother Youssef or Nina Simone, right? Like all those traditional songs, really, they're so good. Or that maybe we haven't found, or I haven't found better songs that feel that way. That I just keep on playing the same stuff, right? For better or worse. So I think I'll still have that as a core thing that I'll get back to play regularly. And even before the pandemic, pop is a thing that kept on changing, right? Very, very quickly. Some pop song will get overplayed and then they'll disappear really quickly, or some pop will stick around for a long time. And then, so yes, right now I'm collecting a lot of songs, but I don't think I would change the ratio of the pop to traditional at whatever venue I'm playing, right? So if let's say I generally play like 5 traditional and 15 pop, right? And then amongst 15, I don't think I'll play all new pop either, because I don't want people to be like, what is all this stuff? I don't know, right? But I think, sure, I'll probably have a tendency to play newer stuff, but I'll still try to bring some older stuff as well, right? So I think I'll just figure it out as things happen, especially because like can we retire Wild Turkey 101 crew? Probably not, because, well, I won't, because I like that song. But yeah, so I think like it's hard to plan for something that's probably months, if not a year to maybe even 2 years ahead, just depending on how things are. So I haven't really planned for it, but generally my guess is I'll probably, play for the floor and then see what happens. Okay, another question. What's gonna happen to late night dancing? I don't know. Like I've definitely heard. So even before the pandemic, there are some events in the interest of dancer education or health or whatever. They would put a stop time at 4 or 5 or 3 or whatever it is, right? So what's already kind of starting to happen. It's kind of funny. 4 is not considered late night anymore, right? But it's something that the events were starting to have some awareness, right? And then with the pandemic, it's likely that if the event does come back, or when an event comes back, at least the first few events, I could see them having some sort of COVID protocol, whatever that may be. So that may mean that we're gonna shut down. We're not gonna have late night dancing, because later dancing may mean probably means a little less healthy overall, right? Which may also mean maybe fewer contests, like who knows? But it's hard to tell what's going to happen. But I won't be surprised if the late night dance doesn't go as late as it used to. So the Breakfast Club is not about staying up till 6, but maybe 4 o'clock is good enough, right? Or maybe Breakfast Club will be a thing of the past. Who knows? But I think it will be great if the goal of some of the dancer isn't about staying up, but it's about having fun and dancing, right? Even if the dance ends at 4 a.m. But then in the end, though, events have to do what the clients want, and then over time, even if the West Coast swing scene does shrink a little because of the pandemic, over time it's going to get back to where it is probably. And once it does, if the clients want dance till 6 a.m., I can see it happening as well, right? So it it just really depends on where the community goes, I think. Okay, I have 3 more minutes. So will the flow of the dance want to change? Yes, perhaps, right? Flow, cool here is great. It's flow of the music for the floor, right? What DJ tries to do to keep the dancers going. I think flow is always changing, whether it's monthly or yearly, or because the music changes, the dancer changes, the location changes. So I think and then it's ultimately about doing what people want to do on the dance floor. So it will probably change, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just change is constant, I feel like. Okay, yes, perhaps we'll end up wanting slower BPMs because we are all out of breath because we're all not used to moving around, or a lot of us aren't used to moving around because of the pandemic. But yeah, I think that's it for the question received. Thank you. Thanks for stopping by and listening to me talk. And then thanks to Tammy for the opportunity to talk about DJing and music and how why music is important, why DJs are important. And then to show that to walk the talk, I just wanted to share a couple playlists that I have, right? Like these are all on Spotify, and then I have way too many Spotify playlists because every time I do an event, I tend to, I often created a playlist for the events that I did, right? But these two are relative. So the beta test, the second one is one that I usually keep it at around 200 songs. Those are songs that may be good for West Coast swing dancing. They may not be good, but usually I spend about 10 to 15 seconds listening before I add it to that list. So no guarantees if it's actually West Coast swing worthy. The other one is the daily music. For this year, because I needed to find a way to motivate myself to find songs, I decided to do a music post every day. So if you go to that, every day at some point before I go to sleep, I will post a song or I will add a song. So yeah, hopefully you guys find something interesting in one of these playlists.